Hey guys, if you can think about how you found this podcast, maybe it's on Instagram or TikTok, maybe someone shared it with you. I don't run ads for the show or have sponsorships, so the only way this grows is through word of mouth. If this was valuable for you in any way, my only ask is if you could share this with someone who you think would help their investing journey or business. Thanks a lot, and let's get to the episode. Welcome back to STR the Best. I'm your host, Michael Chang. I'm super excited to have this conversation today with my very good friend, Syed Lateef. Syed, welcome to the show.
I'm very excited to be on the show. Actually, today on my Google Photos, it gave me like one of those playback memories. And I think this is the anniversary of when we first met, maybe 4 or 5 years ago in New York. So it's just like fitting right now to have this podcast with you.
I'm really excited about this conversation. So Syed and I have known each other for a long time, like since we're trying to figure out 2018, 2019, and we went through COVID together. We helped each other a lot along the way, which is what the main topic we're going to talk about today is how those chance meetings can lead to big changes in your life, and just be open to meeting people, providing value with no expectation for return, just because be someone that's a good person. And if you're a good person, like, you'll find stuff to work on together. So that's my main topic today. But before I start,
Right.
Syed, can you please give the audience a quick introduction of you
Yeah.
and your business?
Before I even introduce myself, I just want to say I always tell Michael we have a $1 million connection or $1 million relationship, because I would say that from the relationship we've made, what we have learned together, what opportunities came to us, I have made $1 million from meeting Michael. I'll get into it later in this podcast, but he was the one that brought me this one opportunity that I think I got value of more than $1 million from that value. It was regarding the State Alfred bankruptcy, and he gave me the idea of potentially offering a significantly low dollar amount because I had nothing to lose for this 120, 150 apartments worth of furniture. And then that's my benefit that I received from my relationship from Michael. There's a lot more since then as well, since I've been getting in my personal brand. But I would even say on his end, the connection that he made for me and some of the things that people I connected him with, he has made a significant amount of money. That $1 million, I don't know what it is, but I would say it's $1 million connection. At one conference a couple years ago, it was in Chicago. I wanted to stunt my cars. I was riding in that Ferrari a little bit.
What kind of car do you? Yeah, what kind of car for the audience here? We'll put a picture of it.
Back then it was a Ferrari. It was in Chicago, my hometown, and these guys visited my hometown, and then everybody wanted to see the car. So I was like, all right, cool. I'm gonna come to the conference with the Ferrari. And then that's when I pulled up in the Ferrari, and I started calling all my friends outside by the valet. And then that's when Michael came, Hamza came, Derek came, and we made a little friendship connection that day. And that I believe that has encouraged Michael to take new steps in his like career, in his journey, in his entrepreneurship journey with what he's doing now from that group. But yeah, we'll go into that.
We're gonna break the regular format today, so we're just gonna like riff on today. Yeah. So what Sam was saying, that was May 21, and no, May 2022. Excuse me. And we had just had a kid too, and I was really debating going out to Chicago because I was like, I know everyone there. There's there's no real, like, what am I going to really learn from there? And actually, Liz says, no, you should go. Syed's out there. With some other people that we know, just like talk to them and see what people are doing, and we might have some ideas on the business. It'll be worth it. I was like, all right, fine. So I go, and he said, show me the cars, right? Because he always talks about his cars. So before, like, how many cars you got now? Like, what? Give the audience like
my
the
fleet?
Rolly. Like, what do you got now? What's your fleet?
I have the Lambo Huracan. It's sexy. It's red. It's hot. And then I have the Rolls Royce Wraith because I gotta have the starlights like for my content. It makes me look like special. And then I have an Acura NSX. It's an orange one. A G Wagon.
I love that NSX.
Yeah. So I got some things.
So the guys in their 40s, like I'm 43, and Sad, how old are you? 41?
36.
36.
41?
All right. So
how you gonna do that to me?
The video's not that great today. All right, I'm kidding. But guys, our generation, the NSX was like one of the old school like supercars, and that's a really, really neat car. Next time I go to Chicago, you gotta pick me up from the airport from that.
I will.
I'm gonna go hang out with that one. But yeah, so we came out, and then there's just two guys like Derek, Derek Chung and Hamza Zafar. I had met Hamza actually a long time ago, and he gives you shit because he called me about how to do his accounting when he was just only doing Philly. This is probably, I think it was during COVID or like kind of during November 2020. And I was like, I didn't know who this guy was. So I was like, all right, whatever. Call, and then we chatted and everything. And then I see him again, and I was like, I don't know who this person was. But the fact that you knew him and you're like, no, he's a good guy. He's real. His real business is okay. Like a lot of credibility. And I think that's something I want to touch on too. It's like when you develop a good relationship with someone and then they say, hey, you should meet someone. This is a good person. It's a good man, woman. It actually it makes you like listen, or maybe you listen a lot more to these people versus someone that you meet and you're like, oh, okay, whatever. Be polite, but you don't have to. You don't know if they're real or not. Does that? How does that help you in your journey? Yeah, let's just dig into that.
Yeah.
Talk about when we first met. We met in, I think it was September 2018 or 19. We'll figure it out. But why were you in New York during that time?
So it was when I first started my business, and I wanted to get my name out. I wanted to show that I'm doing something. I wanted to build a brand at that time. And that's when I was going to some conferences and some speaking engagements locally. And then I knew Mike from like the Facebook groups and like the Bigger Pockets.
Who's Mike?
Yeah, from my understanding, he was part of this one VC-backed company back before, and then he was involved in New York type groups. I didn't follow his whole story completely, but he was having a whole bunch of groups and a lot of people coming in to talk. I was like, hey, it'll be cool to fly out to give a talk about my life in my business, my entrepreneurship journey. But he set up like a great event. It was like on a rooftop, like it was like perfect weather. 150 people, 200 people came to that event, and I made some connections that that $1 million connection, at that event. And I would not have expected I would have made any connection. I met you, I met Liz, and it's been an awesome experience seeing your guys' journey, and then also going back and forth on ideas on what we got going on.
Yeah. So for folks, like Michael McKay is a guy, kind of New York legend. He has brought a lot of people together. Actually, on a separate podcast I had maybe 4 or 5 episodes ago. So the person, Travis Hall, Mike McKay was his kind of accountability partner. So Mike has been such a huge resource for me and Liz. So Mike, if you're listening to this, shout out to Michael McKay. Just all around good guy, always provides value, expect something in return, great reputation, just a great mentor for a lot of people in the short-term rental space. So I just want to give a shout out to Mike. So then you met Liz. So actually you met Liz, and then we got to know each other. And I remember one of our conversations. We had a couple conversations pre-COVID. I remember I was sitting on my porch and we were talking. I was thinking about co-hosting versus rental arbitrage. We had already had 25 arbitrage units in New York, New Jersey. And then I remember asking you, I was like, I got these co-host deals. Do you have any co-host deals? Like what's your experience been? Do you remember that conversation?
I don't remember that specific conversation, but I'm curious to know what I said and where that took you.
No, you were like, man, like you had this one owner that was just like a pain in the ass, and it was just like always on you for every little thing. And then you're like, help me get started, but I don't want to do this because, and I remember this line you said to me, it's like having 2 bosses, right? So you got to deal with the owner, you got to deal with the guests. And with rental arbitrage, it was just a lot cleaner. If you had the money and you had the wherewithal to do it, then stick with rental arbitrage because it's a lot easier to scale.
Yeah. So it was when I first left my job, I was working corporate America in finance, and I started a property management company, and I did some SEO work that got me like to the top spot on Google for Airbnb management company in Chicago. And so that ended up making me get a bunch of leads. And this one individual, I had maybe 10 units at the time, nothing too crazy. And this one individual came to me and said they have 20 units in some great areas. They've been managing it, but they're getting older and they're having trouble. It was like a once in a lifetime opportunity. I was so excited. I'm like, man, I'm going to double my business now or triple my business now. I'd love to be able to take this deal on. So I was like pitching to them for a month, putting together proposals, analysis, showing I'm professional. And then finally they said yes to me. And then I went into the onboarding side of things. and onboarding was like intense because they were like distressed type short-term rentals. She's been in the business for 10 years. Even she was like the first person in Chicago on Airbnb. They were distressed apartments. She didn't care about them anymore, but she made a lot of money off of them and they appreciated a lot. So it is what it is. So I came in, I put together all these proposals to fix XYZ things. I brought in handymen. I brought in people to redecorate the units. I put a lot of work and a lot of time in to get these up and ready to go. And then finally, after I did get them ready to go, bookings started coming in, but it was almost like I was her assistant. She just was telling me, "Oh, this person wants to pay $25 for a garage fee. Can you go pick up the dollars?" And I was like, "Wait, excuse me, I'm not your assistant. Anything we do, we got to put in a system, a software, some way of charging people. But I'm not doing that." But the requests started increasing, and then also because she wasn't financial savvy, she didn't understand my pricing methodology for my unit. So she just kept on complaining about, hey, you're not pricing right, you're not doing this right, you're not doing that. But I started putting together analysis like, hey, I'm performing better than what you did in previously. I'm a finance guy. I don't just like taking claims like that. You got to show me with data. But it was like she still didn't believe it. It was like a weird person to like work with. And all of a sudden it was like 3-4 months in that I spent most of the time onboarding, fixing up her place. Finally, we took it live. 1 month in, she's like, hey, this is not working out. We're going to take back the units. And that was like the most devastating blow. I was like, I can't believe I spent so much time with this crazy person. Our management styles didn't match. She consumed my day and night. She would message me drunk and complaining about what I was doing. It was just a really weird relationship. And she gave me a lot of threats even after, telling me I know where you live, things like that. Like craziness, right? But after that, it made me realize, hey, I don't want to be in this type of management type model. It's a hand holding, working with another boss. It was not something that I wanted to do.
Yeah. It like definitely. So I think folks hear about co-hosting or really just another word for property management.
Yeah.
There's some of the drawbacks, right? There's definitely a lot of pros too, right? If you are starting out your journey,
Right.
it's really, generally low cost way to get started. You don't responsible for rent, the furnishings, utilities. You just get a percent of revenue, but there's a cost to that, right? Like you can do all this work and they can fire you. And if you're just starting out, you don't have the resources to go see someone that has 20 buildings, right? You've just all this sweat equity you put in there. If you're going to go down, if you're going to go down that route, excuse me, I think it's really behooves you to really know the partner that you're coming into, that person that is you're co-hosting for. They are really with you hand in glove. You have an understanding of how you're going to work together. Your styles match. You have the same view of the business. Because if not, then you start running these issues, and then 4 months in, you've done all this work to take it back from you. But look, it's a great way to start, right? It got you started, right, Syed? Like you went from 10 to 30. What did you learn from that? What are some of the lessons that you gleaned from that, besides not doing more co-hosting deals and telling me not to do it?
So one, I learned that not every partnership is a good partnership. You want to work with the right partner. And that I realized that I want to work with high-level people, professionals that are not worried about the small things and understand business and understand the person on the other end needs to make money as well. And it needs to be a system. It needs to be organized. And somebody that's not looking at what's going on operationally on a daily basis and questioning every single thing. I need somebody way higher level that if I do short-term rentals, great. If I don't do short-term rentals, great. They don't care. I need to show them I could provide value. And that's with dollars, right? That's how I ended up realizing that type of business model wasn't for me.
Yeah.
But
I'm going to pull something.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. So go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, so I just want to say, I don't know if we're going on in the podcast, but people don't know who I am because I cut you off in the beginning. I just want to let people know who I am and where I'm at with my business right now. I'm based out of the Midwest. I'm in a few markets, but majority of my units are in Chicago. I have 300 units. I have a rental arbitrage business. I've been doing this for about 6-7 years now. And I've gone through some ups and downs from COVID, almost losing all my units, to now ending up getting some awesome opportunities through bankruptcies. And now I'm at 300 units.
So
yeah. So
let's talk to that journey. So thanks for, and we'll make sure we highlight this up front. Syed is one of the most successful rental arbitrage operators in the U.S. That's a fact, right? He's been doing it for 6 years. And I say this as someone that's seen a lot of operators, some good, some bad, some were good for a while and then came up short. So just like anything else, like just if you want to be successful in business, you want to be successful in anything, consistency and longevity, right? The longer you play the game, the longer you stay alive, the more successful you will be. And it's funny. I had this managing director when I was an investment banker. I remember she said to me, first year of my career, she sat down with me and she was like, Michael, I'm gonna tell you how, and she's been doing it for years. She's keep your seat. Right? I just make yourself valuable, keep your seat, and that's how you're gonna be successful in investment banking and generally in life. And I was like, remember that it was like maybe it was more an offhand comment from her. Syed's been doing this for 7 years. I've been doing it since December 2016. So, gosh, like almost 7 years now too. There are very few people like us that have done this for this long. A lot of people, unfortunately, bankrupt during COVID, and a lot of people started during COVID. And a lot of people you see, they've been very successful, but they've been very successful in one cycle.
Yeah,
The trick
we've
is
seen a lot.
surviving.
Yeah, we've seen a
The
lot of
trick
colleagues drop
is
off in our
drop
professional
off.
groups. We've seen people
Many
that don't talk to us anymore because
the
they didn't
people
make it through the cycle. We've gone. I would say we're on our second cycle, post COVID, 3 cycles maybe. So longevity in a business is very underrated. If the longer you're in business, the more props to somebody.
the longer you're in business, the more you learn, the bigger your network, the deeper your market. And that's where Syed and I share a commonality. He's mostly in Chicago or in Chicago, a few markets. I'm in few markets too. For me, it's Philadelphia for rental arbitrage, and we buy and own in Tennessee. And that's purposeful. And I want to hit on that too. Like folks, like this is gonna be a longer podcast, but I hope you guys stay because Syed and I have known each other for a long time, and we've actually been waiting to do this. We've been waiting. I've been waiting to get him on the show for a long time. He's finally starting to build his personal brand. He's the first and only 8-figure host on Instagram, I believe.
Yeah.
And I don't know any other 8-figure host, but I know he actually is an 8-figure host. So I'm gonna blue check him on that for that. I'm a 7-figure. I'm happily a 7-figure host, and I'll talk about why I'm happily that way. He'll talk about why he's grown to that level. But I want to just make sure I hit on that point because there was that first cycle. Airbnb, we're on the second cycle of Airbnb right now. There was, and Airbnb really started professionally 2015-ish. It's a great run. If you start in 15, fantastic run in 2020, right? March 2020. A lot of people made a lot of money, and some people they cashed out. But a lot of people that were in bad positions in 2020, Stay Alfred, which is a VC-backed business, Domio, which is also a VC-backed business, hundreds of $1 million in investment capital gone in 3 months because with the way they manage their business, they could not survive COVID, right? And that's not a criticism on them. That's just a fact, right? They did not survive COVID. And that's a lot of opportunities for people like me and Syed that we were able to, I bought a bunch of furniture for Stay Alfred. I didn't have the same view as Syed, who bought, how many units you bought? I bought 10. I think about like 12 units of furniture. How much did you buy? Like 120.
I think 120 apartments.
And then how many did you buy? And Domio, how much did you buy? Another
50 apartments worth of furniture from Domio.
Right. And then how much did you pay? Percent of if we bought retail, how much did you pay?
2 cents on the dollar.
2 cents on the dollar, right?
Yeah.
You can make a lot of mistakes paying 2 cents on the dollar,
Right.
2 cents on the dollar to furnish your units. And that post-COVID opportunity unlocked. And there was obviously a huge COVID travel boom since then. And all of us have done really well then. But now we're hitting the back end of that cycle. And I guess, Syed, how do you think about that now? You're around 300 units. You've obviously done well for yourself. How are you thinking about the next 2 years?
Yeah, just taking it back a little bit. When COVID happened, I was in a pretty bad position. I had 180 leases at the time. And all of a sudden, I was in March of 2020, and that's when my busy season starts. So right before that, in my markets, it's bad seasonality. Winter is terrible. I'm losing money hand over fist. And also during that time, I was also scaling and growing as much as possible because at the same time, when winter is happening, the slow season for long-term tenants is during that time. So it was an opportunity for me to scale. So I was losing money every month from my actual business, but I was taking on a lot of debt during that time with credit cards and private loans from family and friends. And I was adding like 60, 70, 80 units during a few months during the winter. And I was super excited for March spring break to come hit and busy season to start. My cash was low, debt was high. But I'm like, all right, I'm set. I'm ready to go. I'm going to make $1 million profit this year. And all of a sudden, COVID hit me with a brick wall. And all of a sudden, Airbnb refunds all my guests. Flights are all canceled. And I have $5,000 to my name. And I had a $400,000 rent payment coming up in April 1. So I thought I was done. It was nothing left. I couldn't do anything.
How was the conversation with your wife?
So everything was happening so fast, and it was no point of stressing out my wife during that time.
Okay.
We had little kids, so it's not like me telling her like exactly what was going on would help anything. If anything, it'll probably make my situation at home worse. So it was almost like I had to keep everything to myself on how I was feeling, where I was at with my head, where we were at financially. At the end of the day, I had confidence in myself that, okay, if I lose everything from a business side, but I would be able to still go out and make money somehow, some way. Whether it's using my hand and physical labor, I'll do it. If I had to drive an Uber to bring money in, I'll do it. That's not a problem for me. I'll never not have an opportunity to make money. But I didn't think at the time that bringing other people along in my stress would help the situation. Only entrepreneurs can take that stress on, in my opinion. Only the successful entrepreneurs can take that stress on. It's not for everybody to understand the situation that's going on.
Yeah. No, that's. I work with my wife. She sees the reports too. But look. I think it's all about just really deep focus during times of stress. Right? And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, you have to be able to really focus on what is important that day. And even in crisis season, also just during your regular day, there's no one there to tell you what to do. When you're working 9 to 5, you have someone there to tell you like, hey, you need to do X, Y, and Z. When you're an entrepreneur, like you don't have to. Like you can go and take a nap. You can do whatever you want. The successful ones, even when they are successful, they still get up every day. They're consistent in their effort, and they're able to really focus and move out and eliminate distractions or potential distractions. Okay, right. You have $5,000 in your name. You have $400,000 coming up. Obviously, you didn't have the money there in April 1st. What happened?
So I started walking into all my landlords' offices, and I told them, like, look, this is the situation. I'm in a very bad situation. I can give you 3 options, and you can decide on what you want to do. And like the 3 options were, let's get on a revenue share, and let's see how COVID affects us. Number 2 was allow me to let go of my units and pick up my furniture and leave, or take my furniture. If you want my furniture, you could have it. And number 3, it was I don't pay you and you could sue me for anything that I have, and we could see what happens. So out of my 10 landlords, there was like 3 of them that said, let's go on a revenue share, which was majority of my portfolio. It was like 90 units.
Oh, okay.
Which like kept me in business, and it was like the best relationship. And there was
like, so let me pause you there. What is revenue share?
So at the time, it was if I made $10,000 on a unit, they would take 5,000. I would take another 5,000.
Okay.
So
you're splitting. So you would split the revenue by a percentage with the owners. Right. That's revenue share for folks. Okay.
So it's similar to a management type agreement. In my original management type agreements, it was like an 80-20 split. But I didn't know exactly how much dollars were coming in during COVID. So almost like a 50-50 split at the time seemed reasonable to the landlord. They probably gotten more out of me, but I think I negotiated awesome. Whatever I did, it got me an opportunity to even make some money during that 2020 COVID year. Basically, I made the argument to them, I just need to be able to make enough money to pay my employees and you put food on my table. And I think a 50-50 split is reasonable, and we could adjust accordingly. And we did adjust accordingly. Like as demand started increasing during that 2020 summer, it wasn't that bad for a few reasons. One, supply decreased by 50%. People went bankrupt. My ADRs were not that bad during the summer, so I ended up giving a lot more than 50%. But it was like a dynamic scale during that time. It was just basically keep my business alive, and I'll give you as much money as possible to those landlords. So that was like 3 of those landlords. 3 of them were like, just pick up your stuff and leave, or leave your stuff and leave. And then there was 3 of them that were like, we're not COVID charity. We're not going to give you a break. You signed a lease. If you're not going to pay, we're going to sue you until we get everything out of you. There was other threats, like pretty bad threats, like they were giving me. Like,
did they sue you?
One guy. Sorry, what?
Did they sue you?
No,
did they sue
because
you? No.
No, they didn't sue me. It was a lot of threats and lawyers involved, but it's just a start of a conversation. And I'm ready to do business, negotiate a deal. There was settlement payments that I did, and I was able to get out of those as well. They didn't want to sue me. Nobody wants to sue anybody. They just want to be able to make some money, feel good about themselves, and move on. I found a middle ground that was acceptable to them, and they took the money and we parted ways. So
Uh,
now all of a sudden, now I have from 180 units to 90 units, but they're now on revenue share management type agreement, and now I don't have no big obligation. So there's like risk to it, right? The management type model, there's a lot less risk, but a lot less money you make. But in the rental arbitrage model, you make way more money, but the risk is way high.
so how do you think about that? Are you near death experience?
Yeah.
But you were nimble. You negotiate some good deals that allow you to keep your business alive. And I think there's for us that we're able to, just to share with us too. And this is how we survived COVID was we looked at our portfolio very dispassionately, right? We had done all the work to do it, and we're like, all right, what's worth keeping and what's not, right? So the ones that weren't worth keeping, we're like, all right, we need to get out of this. And how do we get out of it? So we actually still went to the landlord and said, hey, this is what we can do. We can pay. We gave them some options too. This is what we can do. Let us know, but we want to make sure that we keep the relationship. We don't want you to feel like we're something bad happened. We're going to run away from you. And we actually did that. We're like, some of them were like, just go pay us the next 2 months and then we'll call it a day. Some were like, okay, just help us get a long-term tenant in there at close to the rent. If you're pretty close to what you've been paying us, don't worry about it. We'll let it go. We'll keep your security deposit, let it go. So we were just able to work with it. We worked it all out. And what actually was really great was, and this is a little lesson on paying it forward is, or just keeping a good reputation was, we still relied on those landlords later on to be our references when we were growing a business, right? They're like, oh, you've done this before. And then they were still able to pick up the phone and speak well of us because we had ended it in the right way. So folks out there that like, it's not this, maybe not this specific situation, but end things in the right way. Be a good person, be transparent, work with people. You'll find most people are reasonable as long as you're not trying to screw them, right? Like they understand COVID, bad situation, everyone's struggling. You're trying to do your best. And I think when people sense that, they will give you the benefit of the doubt and help you along in your way. So with that, your 90 units revenue share, right? And so how are you at 300 units today in rental arbitrage? Weren't you like, man, like I think a lot of people would have said, I'm going to keep doing revenue share because I don't want to go through that same experience again. But you were different. How did kind of walk us through your thought process there?
One, my hand was forced to get back into a lease. These landlords are not going to do revenue share. They don't want to take on the risk of Airbnb. They only want to do their current business model and what's normal to them, and which is the least amount. They just want to get paid. They don't want any issues. They don't want to deal with the seasonality. The landlords forced my hand, and after a year's time during the pandemic, after the next year, February, I think it was, where they started having conversations with me like, hey, we need to get back into a standard lease with you and you pay the dollar amount. If you cannot, then you just take your stuff and leave.
Okay.
So they forced my hand. But what they did was they took me out of my slow season where I was just sharing the revenue of like low dollar amounts. So I didn't have those losses during that slow season. And all of a sudden they asked for their full rent payment when my busy season was starting again in 2021. And 2021 was a record year for me from a net profit perspective because of the timing of how everything was happening, the amount of units I was having, the demand that came back after the mask mandates reduced. To help me scale during that time was that opportunity that I mentioned to you regarding the Stay Alfred and Domio furniture, where I bought so much furniture on pennies on the dollar. But the catch was I had to get that furniture out of the apartments in 7 different cities, and I had to figure out a warehousing and logistic company overnight. I had to figure out how I could get trucks, movers, warehousing.
How'd you do that? Yeah, because so this is where this is where Syed and I kind of the fork in the road for us. Like for me was I bought all of Stay Alfred's furniture in Philadelphia. Right, we were there, and that was like I was like, hey, all I want is that, and I knew there was other furniture there, and that's where I think when we talked about the $1 million meeting. Actually, before we get there, I want to reward the folks that stay 30 minutes. Syed, how much money did you make in 2021 net profit? You can give a ballpark figure.
Yeah, so 2021, I had like 1.6 $6 million, $1.5 million net income
There you
that
go.
year. Yeah. So it
That
was
that can
on,
buy some.
yeah, it was like maybe on 7 point something million dollars worth of revenue. But it was again because they had revenue shared during that slow season, or
Yeah.
else that net profit would have been way lower because my losses during the winter wasn't that bad. So then,
Hey man.
but I didn't realize that with my forecast the next year. I thought I was going to do way better than in 2022 than 2021, because even though my ref pars per unit increased, but because of my,
You gotta pause. What's
yeah,
RevPAR and why is that important?
yeah, so revenue per available room.
So for folks that are REV revenue,
Yeah.
PAR per available room, and that is the metric that everyone should be judging themselves on in short-term rentals, right? Because it's
Yes.
not revenue, it's not ADR, which is the rate that you're charging, or it's occupancy, it's RevPAR, because that measures how efficient you are in squeezing revenue per available night in your inventory, right? If you can, just for example, you can charge $1 million and have, sorry, you have 100% occupancy, but charge $100 a night, right? That your occupancy looks great, but your RevPAR is 100, but maybe you should be charging $200 a night. So it's the play between your rate and your occupancy. If you can get that right, you maximize RevPAR. That's when you are an A plus short-term rental operator. So sorry to interrupt there. I
Yeah.
always want to explain the
Right.
concepts. Okay, so I guess yeah. So before we leave that point, how did it mess you up in 2022?
So in 2022, I had again a record year in terms of revenue, but my profit decreased from the previous year because of that revenue share I had in the first quarter of 2021. Oh, don't get me wrong, I had a great year in 2022. It was starting first time making $1 million revenue months in the summer, $500,000 profit per month in the summer in some of the months. But if you account for the winter months, it ended up bringing down my net income from like that $1.5 million to it was like $1 million net income in 2022. But I'll tell you, my summer was the best summer I ever had in 2022.
Yeah.
But also, my November and December was the worst November and December I ever had. What had happened was in my markets, because of the mass mandates leaving, pent up demand, people wanting to get out of the house, low supply in my markets, it was like a perfect storm of amazing ADR during the summertime. But then there was like a fatigue of traveling. Everyone did their traveling, then nobody wanted to do travel. And it was wintertime, and probably some variant or some came out during that time. And all of a sudden, people did not want to travel. So I had the best summer of my life, then the worst winter of my life. Uh, I had maybe like $1.2 million of cash reserves. And all of a sudden, November, $350,000 loss. December, $300,000 loss. January, 350. February, $350,000. All of a sudden, I'm 1.4, $1.5 million worth of losses in 5 months of the winter, which ate into all my cash reserves from the previous year. And
Yeah.
I started putting things on credit cards. I started going to deferring my rents for 5 days so I could get extra money. I started not paying my utilities just so I could get out of this low season and seasonality. So like my confidence level was like high to like low because I kept bleeding every single month. So now it's just crazy because now
How do you deal with it? And that's the philosophical, that's one of the philosophical differences you and I have.
yeah.
And I don't like that. I don't like that seasonality, and where it's so high, so low. You really got to like really manage your cash. And you also had to pray that your high season doesn't get messed up. Like some people in Florida, it's their high season season. You get a hurricane that comes, like it can impact you. How do
Yeah.
you mentally? Obviously, there's financial ways to deal with it, but how do you mentally deal with that? Actually, like you as an entrepreneur, swing from $1.5 million of cash to like, you know, deferring rent for 5 days to try to catch that first few days to get your cash up. How do you mentally prepare for that, Syed?
So the mental comes from understanding like the math of it, right? So as
Yeah.
long as you could forecast things and you are tracking to your forecast and making sure like the variance is understandable, like up and down from what you think it's going to hit, then you can mentally understand, okay, you might be okay if you just wait a little bit or if you use this cash for that. And then as an entrepreneur, you always have levers in your head, like opportunities that like, hey, if this happens, okay, I might sell XYZ asset of mine, whether it's the cars or whether it's some real estate, or you start thinking about, hey, where could I get some private funding? Or when do I have to bring another conversation to the landlord? I always think of like levers in my head of worst comes to worst, what can I do? But mentally, yeah, it is taxing. Your confidence levels go highs and lows, and you could even see it in my face when I go to these conferences. If you catch me in the summertime, I feel Drake, and I have the cars and money, and let's go party, let's go to Maple and Ash, get it, valet in front and everything. But then when I start bleeding, I start staying home and not doing much, and it takes a toll on you mentally. But it's the thing that I go through every year. And I'll tell you, I'm not used to it. Like I'm never ever used to it. It's not like, oh, it's just, it's real stressful. But I would say as an entrepreneur, the reason why I'm successful today and how much money I have today is because I could handle that stress so far until I break. I can handle it better than other people. I can handle having 100 people in my company. I can handle the lawsuits and problems that come in. I can handle the 5,000 guests I have on a monthly basis. It's just something that I don't know if I was born with or just what I am. And my level of stress, being able to take this on is more than others, not anybody else, but because there's people that can do more than me. It's like our friend Hamza, his level of risk is significantly higher than mine because I've seen a lot of stuff that has almost taken me out of my business. I get scared now, and you could see it in my actions or my growth or my plateauing. I would say like a Hamza's like new money. He's on his fast track up within the last 2 years is when he started. His growth is like a hockey stick. But let's see, as time goes on, you don't want to get caught in the wrong cycle where you lose everything. I want to put in some hedges against. That's why I'm a little more passive than him, but might be more risky than others. So it's just like a mindset thing.
Yeah, and there's a time and place for all that. Yeah. I think a lot of it's informed by age, right? When you're younger in your career, you have more risks. You just have more runway. When you're 36, when you're 43, and you have 4 kids, I have 2 kids, you think about life in a very different way. And it's not right or wrong. No one has a crystal ball. Like my crystal ball is no better than yours, is no better than anyone else's, right? Like we all rely on the data. I think for folks that have listened to me for a while, it's very, very finance oriented, very, very numbers oriented. It's how I research markets, properties. And Syed and I, we've been able to keep this conversation alive for 6-7 years. We look at the world the same way. So this is doing great. The next question is, okay, then like tell me your metrics, right? Like great doesn't mean anything, right? Like I want, what's your RevPAR? What's your revenue? What's your occupancy? Like all that stuff. How are you thinking about payback? How are you thinking about risks? All those things are like if you want to be really good in this game, you want to be really good in the short-term rental game. If you want to be good in anything, right? Like you have to spend the time and understand the numbers behind it and what's driving performance, because that ultimately will give you confidence to lose $1.5 million for 4 months, because you can see that you're training the right way and you hit March, April, May, June, your high season, and that's when you're going to be making all your money. And look, there's a lot of different ways to be successful, I think. And I think that's the great part about short-term rentals, right? I think I can do my way that I found success. You've done your way. You've found success. Others have done their ways. There's no short-term rental degree. No one has a master's degree in short-term rentals. Like we all come from our different experiences and are able to build this business. And I'm really having a second row seat. It's really impressive. But I want to talk about, 2 cents on the dollar, right?
Yeah.
And how you've been able to scale from that. And I'll tell you, like the stay offer furniture was great. It was, I think we paid like 10 cents on the dollar. High quality furniture, we still use it. It was probably like $15K per unit of value. We paid all in probably like $1,000 maybe, and then plus the ship, plus all the labor. It probably came out like 10 cents. But we moved it from where they were sitting into units directly. We didn't store any of that stuff. Tell us, I'm actually just curious, like how'd you get all that stuff into storage in Chicago?
Yeah. Okay. So for one, when I brought it up to you, I'm like, man, I have no use for this furniture. I wouldn't even take it for free. What the heck am I going to do with it?
Yeah.
It's like a huge cost for me to figure out what I do with it. But you're like, just give it any dollar amount. I'm like, all right, I'm going to give like a $200, $250 offer. And after putting in a random email offer saying $250 per unit for 20 units, I guess at the time,
Yeah.
Like 3, 4, 5 months later is when he started responding to me and saying, okay, you have a deal. If you're still interested, here's a bill of sale.
Yeah.
And then for me, we got a handful of months through the pandemic and business was not that bad. My landlord was liking this revenue share agreement at the time because he was hurting on tenants to come into his building. And it was almost like a perfect storm. I'm like,
Perfect.
hey, I'm not going to be committed to rents. I'm going to get this huge upfront cost of furniture. Let me put this furniture into his units
Yeah.
and without anything have to worry about. So I accepted the $250 worth of per unit, but that's just to buy the furniture. Now all of a sudden I have furniture in Ohio, Minnesota, Atlanta, Dallas. I don't even know where else. Actually, now I regret not buying more because there was like 150 units in Nashville that I wish I was the guy who bought it,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
didn't have the capacity at that time to even know if I was going to be able to do anything with it. But anyways, so then basically I said, one, I need people to help me move it. Number two is I need trucks. And number three, I need warehousing. Literally, I started going on Facebook groups for professional movers
Nice.
and I started making posts. I'm looking for movers to help me. And there's a huge network of movers, some interesting type people, like sometimes not the best people, but I get it because it's like hard labor type work.
Yeah.
And basically, I told one of my resources out of here, fly out to that location, drive out. I'll get you some movers, figure it out for me, and let's bring that furniture back. So then I had to figure out like, hey, where am I going to get trucks from? So I started Googling like how to broker a truck to get from one location to another. And at the time, it was Uber Freight. They came out with the business model. I don't know where it's at right now. I haven't used them in the last years, but basically just requesting a Uber car, you could request an Uber freight truck and they
That's
show up.
crazy.
Yeah, they show up to your location and with the truck and you just have to load it. And like they gave the rate for that. And I had a lot of leeway to play with, right? Because I was getting it 2 cents on the
Yeah.
dollar,
So, yeah. So cheap. Yeah.
so it's okay. Even if I got it to $1,000 all in cost per unit, I'm still good. So I'm like, all right, just send these people there, send my people here, order these trucks. I started talking to my landlords that I was currently doing business with. Hey, do you have any idea of where I could put this furniture? Can I rent some warehouse space? And people like the go-getter type mentality.
Yeah.
Like other entrepreneurs like when somebody finds an opportunity, gets a deal, they want to get in on that mix and be around that
Yeah.
energy. He started brainstorming with me. One of my landlords started brainstorming with me. I'm acquiring this one warehouse space that is under foreclosure. I think this could be a perfect fit for you to move some of your furniture there for some time. So I'm like, okay, great. And that is like a handshake deal. I don't even have to worry about like long-term leases and like
Yeah.
anything, right? It was just like a perfect opportunity. Don't get me wrong. There was like headaches doing a handshake deal because he started changing the dollar amount I should pay him in the middle because he started seeing how much I was bringing in. And then I started making deals like in Dallas when I was picking up furniture from an apartment and I asked them, first of all, I bought it assuming that it was in the apartments. Then after I bought it, I realized that the landlord already moved it out of the apartments into a central location. So I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, let's just save me on labor costs.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden I was like, listen, it's already in an abandoned storefront. It was like a downtown Dallas. It was like in a CVS that CVS left. So they just put the furniture in there. I was like, listen, I'll pay you,
I just rent the
rent.
CVS.
Just leave until I could figure out where I need to do with it.
Yeah. Smart.
And then they delayed like 3, 4, 5 months to get me a lease over. And I was like, actually, no, I don't need it anymore. I'll take that furniture. So it was like small little wins here and there, small little
Yeah.
opportunities. I had like 3, 4 warehouses. I had to actually get another warehouse that I actually negotiated month to month on it, but I ended up taking it for way too long, more than I should have. Like 2 years in where I'm like, wait, this is like all the leftover junk that I have from Stay Offered. I need to just trash this and move on.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, I was hustling and I was figuring out like Googling how I could get it, where I could figure it out. And I had a lot of leeway to play with, but it was a once in a lifetime opportunity. And that's why I was like buying as much as possible and also seeing that opportunity that landlords wanted me to be in their apartments on a revenue share. So it was like a perfect match made in heaven.
I'm glad that I would, small little part in your journey, and congrats to you on one, staying alive when things were bleak, and two, having the intestinal fortitude to continue to play the game, because I think part of it is just like having confidence in yourself. Like, I'm going to figure it out. Like you said, I'm going to figure it out. If I got to drive an Uber, I remember that thought in my head too. Like, I just quit investment banking and I quit all this stuff. I had my degree and all this stuff. And I'm like, and then COVID happened. It was like, I went through that list in my head where I was like, all right, who do I contact if I need a job, if I can't get a job? And like Uber and Lyft were definitely on the list. But in the end, like, you got kids and you got family, you're going to do what you got to do. Like for me, I'm the husband, father, the man of the house, right? Like, just that's responsibility, right? Not being like misogynistic, it's just responsibility. It's our job to make sure the family is taken care of. And if you got to go and drive an Uber and then you got to go drive an Uber, you got to do what you got to do. Luckily, none of us we were able to pivot our businesses. And just back to the point about the $1 million meetings, right? None of this would have happened if you didn't come to that meeting with Mike, McKay. It wouldn't have happened if Liz didn't show up to that meetup as well. And then we all met and kept in touch, keeping in touch with people and providing value when there was no business relationship. It's just like, oh, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? These are my problems. We would have those conversations like, these are my problems. What do I do? What do you think? And then those are always like really fun brainstorming sessions. And back into the meeting that we had in Chicago 2 years ago, that helped me to see the power of social media, see the power of personal branding, wanting to tell my story, right? I didn't think I was that interesting to tell, to be honest. And hearing other people and what they've done, the business opportunities it's unlocked, but more of like just showing the world your work, right? I think when you're an entrepreneur, it's like lonely, right? There's no one really to talk to, but actually just showing the world, hey, this is what I've done, right? This is my business. This is like my life's work. I've created this out of nothing. It wasn't the straight line up. There were a lot of peaks and valleys in that way. And I've gotten to this place, and I've been really proud to share that in social media, on podcasts, what Liz and I have built together. And I know you're starting that journey now too. So one, I want to thank you for validating that with the meeting in your Ferrari in front of the Hilton, right? In
Marriott
Chicago,
Hilton,
the Hilton. And it's been really helpful for me to develop this public persona and being able to share the journey with others, the students that I've been able to work with, the people that I've met, the opportunities that this has unlocked for me. So I really appreciate that. Shout out to Hamza and Derek if they listen to this. They were instrumental in my journey as well. And I just remember people that help you along the way. And as you embark on the journey now, you've launched a public branding, your story. Tell us like why. You've obviously seen other people do this. Why did you start this?
Yeah. So one thing, I feel like I'm late to the game because it was right after that meeting that we had in Chicago is where you launched your personal brand, Derek launched his personal brand, and I got to visually see that the results that Hamza was getting with this personal brand, it was replicatable, and it was something that it was almost like anybody that was starting that journey was seeing similar or as good as results. So I saw your guys blow up in the personal branding social media world, and it was that day where I saw you guys take the step, and I still was hesitant too because
why'd you hesitate? Yeah. It's not like you didn't have the money. Yeah. You're obviously a super smart guy. Like what? And I'm asking that because I think a lot of people have that hesitation with starting something new, right? Whether in a job, they want to start a side hustle, a business, buying real estate, whatever, getting on a weight loss plan, working out, whatever it is, right? There is that like inertia that prevents you from taking that step. Like what, and you're obviously not a risk averse person. Like what kind of stopped you at that point?
Yeah, it was a time thing. I didn't know if it was worth my hourly rate to do something like this because I only saw results from one person, and I didn't know that it was almost like there's a huge market available in this personal branding space. And number two is I was making money. I didn't need it. I was making good money in my current business. I thought I figured out the best formula because of my whole revenue share, bankruptcy furniture. I put my head down and I was working on my business and scaling and making an 8-figure in a year business, making $1 million profit in a year. And I was having fun with my cars and all that stuff. One, I didn't need it. And then number two, it's okay. Also, is it a good idea to be out there with what you're doing, because then
Yep.
eyes come on you and it could
Yep.
be in different ways, can affect you in your journey. I didn't want it to affect my current business, either landlords getting upset with my success or regulations or cities seeing, okay, hey, this guy is doing a lot, let's make something out of him so he could
Hmm.
be in the papers. And then also another thing is that people say evil eye. When
Yeah.
people around you start seeing your success, they don't always wish the best on you, and it could affect you. So it was like a lot that went on in my mind about it. Also, I wasn't used to having a phone in my hand recording me and hearing my voice. It was very weird at first. I'm not part of that generation where TikTok and Instagram is normal, where you're talking and recording every single thing that you're doing. All those things made me not do it. But then I saw your success, I saw Derek's success, I saw Hamza's success. And then I started noticing a lot more people on Instagram regarding like the performance. Then I started seeing cash flows of my business going up and down. And I was like, hey, it would be nice to have a supplemental income to what I'm doing and just backup just in case, you
Yeah.
know.
Look, it's good, and then it's like having different businesses, different markets, right? The different volatility that if you have the same business, you have this, it shares the same kind of volatility pattern. But if you have, for me, Philadelphia has a different rhythm than Tennessee, so that helps, right? But it's not all the way there because there's still short-term rentals, right? There's still real estate. It's still the same thing. But if you have another business like social media, where you're helping people, educating them on what you're doing and how you can help them, it's a different angle. And I think for me personally, it was building a different. I love building businesses, building our business, and I wanted to get your take on it too. But I also just I two things. I wanted to share my work. Right? I think I was like proud. Like I saw other people was like, "Oh, I'm proud of what I'm doing. I want to show people what I'm doing." And two was I saw the way that other people were teaching it, and some were taught it great. And they're like, okay, I agree with this. Not the way that I would do it, but like I see and it makes sense. But I saw a lot of other people doing it in a way that like I fundamentally disagreed with how they approach underwriting, how they operated their business. And I was like, this is just not the way that I would do it. Not right or wrong. It's just I disagreed with that. I was like, I think I want to show the world like what I'm doing and teach people the way that I've learned how to do it through my banking career, through my MBA, through my experience, and let the market decide. Like maybe they like my way, and that's why we share this journey with others and to people that it's not for everyone, right? The way that I teach it is very numbers oriented. If you're not analytical, you're going to struggle. So if
Right.
you're analytical, this is going to really help you. If you're numbers oriented, if you're organized, this will help you. How are you thinking about as you're developing your program? Or tell us about your program. You're developing your program. What is the ideal? Who is going to maximize value working with you or learning from you?
Right. So, in my opinion, I think everybody has a market. Like you're targeting a different group of people that Hamza or Derek are targeting. You're targeting more professionals that can relate to your journey and they'll have been in high level corporate type jobs and they're like, okay, I trust him and he took the step and I'm not being fulfilled by my current career. Maybe I should take the step as well. And again, you're analytical. You come from that M&A background, you might be you might attract a different type of people versus I see a lot of the younger guys, they're using that flashy lifestyle type marketing to attract other people that want that as well. And you might not get the best quality students and you might deal with other drama associated with those students that, hey, you're not telling me the right things, you're a scam, I'm not successful like you, so you're not doing it right. Versus your approach, you're going to make sure that everything you know, you're going to want to teach these individuals to do. Yeah, and in my mind is I have a little bit of both. I could do a little bit of that flashiness because that's real. That's how I had my life before my personal brand. And but I also have the operational mindset, the scale mindset. I have the finance understanding, and I have a personality that can teach people because I have made like friends and colleagues and other people start this business as well. I feel like I have a approach that I bring a lot of credibility to the table because I've been in the business for some time and I have scaled to a point that I'm making $10 million plus in a year. I feel like I have a niche within myself as well. And I didn't realize the power of a personal brand as I started posting and getting a lot of messages in my DMs, like I'm almost building my own network international. I have people that I hear their stories out of Dubai and Pakistan and Europe, and it's like, whoa, like these people would never even talk to me before, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
It's crazy.
yeah,
No, we went to Bali in February, and then we met up with people there that had heard the story, and they're in Bali. They're like, "Hey, let's meet up." I was in Venice in summer, and then met a couple guys there. And we were in Milan. Someone stopped me in the middle of the street because they're like, "Oh, we've seen your content." It's crazy, and I'm glad you brought that up. It's just like another way of building your personal, and view these as assets, actually, right? Like this is an asset to me, right? Like my rental arbitrage business is the same, my real estate's the same, and then your network is probably your most valuable asset. It's how you get ideas, it's how you share, it's how you problem solve, right? There's no, you can't Google your way out of some of these problems. Like
right.
I have to call you and you have to call me and ask, hey, what do we do here? What do you think? And I think that network of people, and which is why like this is being recorded mid or September, 5th right now. Derek and I, and oh, it's not Derek, Syed and I, we're going to see each other in Austin and Dallas for a conference, and then we're going to see Austin. We're going to see Hamza's portfolio in Dallas and see his empire down there. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see you in a couple days.
Yeah,
Really enjoyed this conversation. 2 questions before I let you go.
sure.
The first is, business is a team sport, and it's my traditional closing question. What's one of the kindest things that someone has done for you along this journey that has really helped you along?
Yeah, I appreciate the group that we have. It's you, Hamza, Norman, Derek. Not too much. Derek is talking too much lately. He's disappeared, but and Jose and RJ. I look forward to these conferences to meet up with you guys and talk to you. And a lot of these guys are like motivating. Like Hamza makes me want to run through a wall. He gets me in my competitive state. If he says I added 10 units, I'm like, all right, I got to figure out how to add some units now. If he bought a Lamborghini, I'm going to buy a Lamborghini. I have this thing, and it's good and bad, but also you give me like that level set and stability that like, okay, you know, like you don't have to go hit that grand slam every single time too. So it's just like a good balance. And I really enjoy our little group that we have.
Yeah,
And
me
I'm
too,
looking
man.
forward to meeting with you guys and talking a little crap to each other. It's fun. It's good energy, good vibes. I look forward to these conferences to meet up with you guys. And I think it's good always.
It's always, I'm looking forward to, and it's just, when you're an entrepreneur, it can get lonely sometimes, and then I think it's really important to develop a group of people that you respect, that are along the same path as you. And that journey is just a lot better with people that you like and care about and can commiserate with, have dinner with, share a podcast with. So, excited to see you as well. For folks that want to contact you and learn more about your journey, where's the best place to find you?
So I'm very active on Instagram. So do follow me on Instagram at Syed BNB. So it's at SYED BNB. And you see my stories and posting. I don't have a product yet that I'm selling or anything yet, but for now you could network with me and see where I'm at, what I'm doing on a daily basis, the problems I'm dealing with. I'm posting a lot over there, just trying to build
Yeah,
my following.
it will be in the show. I'm going to post a link to Syed's Instagram in the show notes. So definitely click on it, follow him, watch stories. I watch his stories every single day. Actually, I enjoy watching the stories. I learn from it, and I've been doing this for a long time. So if you're interested in short-term rentals, you want to get a real perspective from someone who's been through the trenches. It's not going to give you a bunch of fluff. It's going to show you the real and the bad, right? Just like anything else, right? There's high points, there's low points. When you can understand all that, it'll give you a much better grounding if you want to pursue a business like this. And please definitely reach out to him. And so I want to thank you again. This is probably the longest pod episode we've done,
Yeah.
but for me, it's probably one of the most
Honestly,
enjoyable. I really
we
enjoyed
could have
it.
probably kept going and going. There's like too much to talk about. It's always good to talk to you and catch up with you. I'm looking forward to see you in next week and all.
Yeah, I'm gonna have you. I'm gonna have you back again. We're gonna have you back again. We'll talk about where we're at in another 6-9 months and share with the audience. Thank you again for spending time with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.